Try it now. Hopefully it's operational. It only took 1 minute and 15 seconds to get our technology rolling. I was just steaming along there. What's up? Greetings, everyone. We are in a state of mild upheaval as we begin our first live stream, and I guess it's been 2.5 months. Right before I got the audio finally set, I guess StreamYard has changed a little bit. StreamYard's updated itself. Bravo, StreamYard. There we go. Hello. Thank you. And I was also saying right before I realized that the audio wasn't working, thanks to Kelly Dolan, that our lighting has also been really awkward since we've been here. I'm in a very, very new setup. For those of you guys that don't know, and greetings to everyone who will eventually see this. I was very late in making the stream announcement via StreamYard, so it took a while for that to populate. And then some of you guys will watch this and you'll notice that the first minute or so there was no audio. But since our last appearance, which I believe was about 2.5 months ago, yeah, see, my lights are already falling down. But since our last appearance, which was about 2.5 months ago, we have since relocated. We've moved states. We are now living in we're in Austin, Texas. So we did the Florida to Texas jump. And for those of you guys that are watching, those of you guys that are a part of the Patreon, and those of you guys that know me from elsewhere, you guys have already heard that story. But yeah, we made the great leap across several states. So we're in a whole new time zone, which is awkward because now all of the announcements that I put out are going to be in Central Time. I made the awkward switch to East Coast time like 4 years ago, and now everything's going to be listed in Central Time, which is probably easy for a lot of you guys. Like the time zone thing, for some reason, has always been an incredible confusion factor for me, but anyway, there we are. What's up, everybody? Thanks for being here. Sandy Songjoy says, hello. In the beginning, there was silence. There was silence in the beginning, but I know that you're referring to, I know that you're referring to our live, but in the beginning, all was silent. And then we said, let there be sound. Yes, we have officially graduated, or no, I guess we've moved backwards. We've moved backwards into Central Time. So for me, it is currently 9:23 p.m. But I wanted to say greetings to everyone who has shown up here. It's been a couple months since we've done these. And I have a really fun and exciting story to tell you guys right as we get started. I'm hoping that my little light thing stays up, but it's probably going to start falling. We might be cast into utter darkness. We might be cast into utter darkness during today's live stream. But before we get started, I want to say thank you once again to everyone that has joined us. Over the past couple months, we've had a tremendous amount of subscribers that have shown up randomly and then they have unsubscribed. And I don't know if that's a YouTube glitch or if it was just people rolling through. But if you're one of the people that is new to this channel, hang out for a while. We are going to be doing readings. We're going to be talking and just kind of going through a few strange things first. But if you're new here, yes, we are going to be doing readings. And if you're old here, yeah, we're going to be doing readings. So make yourselves ready. It's going to happen, just not yet, because I do have a very exciting story to tell you guys. It's not really exciting. It's just, you know how every once in a while the real world just shows up on your doorstep. A little piece of insanity, a little piece of wildness, a little piece of, yeah, I don't know, just yeah, I'll just say it, the insanity of the modern world. And so for those of you guys that are here, and you can help us by clicking the like button as you come in. If you want to share this video, it'll help tremendously. Like I said, we keep getting new subscribers and then we get unsubscribed. And I think it's this weird YouTube glitch, but I kind of gave up on it like a couple months ago, you guys. And it's part of the reason why we haven't been here, but there's some other reasons which we'll get to later. It's been a lot going on behind the scenes, but let's rewind to, I want to say, about an hour ago now. And I want you guys to kind of build this image in your imagination. If you want to get really technical, you can literally stare into my left eye and you will probably get your own internalized version of the imagery. But you guys can imagine this scene, okay? So it's me and Honora, and we're coming back from this Mexican food restaurant. Now that we've moved to Austin, Texas, I'm excited because I literally was raised like less than a mile from Mexico for years, and so I got really accustomed to having really good Mexican food. And it was something that was sorely missing in Florida. This is just an aside as we begin this story. And so since we moved to Texas, I think I've gained like 5 pounds already just purely eating high fat Mexican food, which trust me is not good, but I would say as a comfort, it's kind of been a mental health thing. It's like a thing from my past. But oh man, I noticed like, dude, the fat content and sodium's out of control. But anyway, bring it back to about an hour ago, and Honora and I are coming back. We're driving into our apartment complex, and we've got some Mexican food, and we bring it up 3 flights of stairs, mind you, for better or worse. So we're up on the third floor. We would go up on the third floor of our apartment complex, and right as we're going in the door, we hear, "Oh my God, help! Oh!" We hear this voice of a man screaming at the absolute top of his lungs, like guttural screaming. And at first I was like, "Oh yeah, it's probably just some." You know how you will immediately hear something like that, and you'll think like, "Oh, I'm sure it's just some people, being more, wild or drinking," or although it's been dead silent, which is cool, which is a good thing. It's been dead silent since we moved in here. You wouldn't know we had neighbors unless maybe randomly you saw one. But all that aside, so we come in the door. I'm holding this bag, with the top, the white plastic bag, where they tie the top too tight, so you have to cut it. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like when you get like a takeout meal and they tie it so tight, you're like, I can't even. So we're sitting there getting ready to kind of pop that open, and then we hear it again. Oh my God, somebody help me! Like screaming. And once again, I was like, it's probably just some guys, maybe hanging out, just doing, getting wild. And then again, immediately, like just absolute guttural guttural screaming. And then this guy's like, "Hey, please help me." And so finally I'm like, okay, all right. That there's that moment where you're like, okay, I'm gonna engage with this thing. I'm gonna make a choice to like, you know what I mean? You're like, I could just stay here in my apartment with the door locked and closed and just have this food. You know what I mean? But for some reason, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go out there. I will go out there. And so I walk outside of our apartment, and we're on the third floor, right? I look down to my right, kind of in front of me, and there is a man. He's probably, I would venture to say early 50s, maybe at the oldest, maybe 52. I don't know. Not too far from my age. Not too far from my age. A little bit of a bigger guy, and he's just wearing underwears. He's wearing boxers. You know what I mean? Like these sort of lime green boxer shorts. And he's laying curled up on the landing of the second floor staircase, and he's like kind of twisting and writhing in this movement. He's like, "Help me, help me!" And he's screaming and screaming for help. And so immediately I'm like, oh man, maybe he maybe somehow he broke his leg, or maybe he physically injured himself. And I happen to walk up or down right as another guy comes up from underneath us. He comes up from the second floor, and he comes up. He's like, "What's going on, man? What's happening?" And you guys can envision this in your own way. Kind of an older dude, a little bit older. I would put him mid 50s, real skinny. The first thing I noticed about him is he had the face of, I know a lot of you guys will know what I'm talking about, the face of a long-term maintenance alcoholic, not a guy who's like in dying from alcoholism, but just the sort of leathery pallor of a long-term alcohol you know like intake. You could just see it. You know what I mean? And it's not a knock against this guy. I'm not trying to talk shit about him. I'm just giving you guys an image for your image bank. Skinny guy, dark skin, but unhealthy looking, but not dying, just very, alcohol oriented. And he shows up right as I do, and he's talking to this man, and we're like, well, what's up, man? What's happening? What's happening? Are you okay? What's going on? And he's just screaming and like writhing and I can laugh about it now because I'll get to the end of the story later. But in the moment, I would looked at him and I'm like, he's on drugs. Oh, that's what it is. Sure enough, we get to asking, he's like, please help me. I can't make it stop. Stop. Somebody help me. It won't stop. And I'm like, tell me, man, what are you feeling? What's happening? Are you hurt? Are you sick? And so turns out he took way too much mushrooms. And I think it's those synthetic ones, which are becoming very, very popular right now. But it turns out, he was having this incredibly bad trip, except he's screaming at the top of his lungs and thrashing and writhing in public on this staircase. And next to me is this kind of old dude who I know a lot of you guys have been in this type of a situation, but you ever notice how sometimes when people come to the aid of strangers, someone will try to assert dominance? Like a person will try to like take control of the situation. And it was really weird because I got to watch this sort of guy that showed up right at the same time take like control of it. And he was like, don't worry about this, man. I got it. And he's trying to physically restrain the guy and push him down on the ground. And I was like, no, 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 don't. It's okay. He's just on drugs. He's on drugs. And here's where it got weird, everyone. The guy that came to his aid suddenly got pissed at me, right? And he was like, I don't know what he said, but he actually, he shoved me. He gave me one of those like, male shove things, like get out of here type things. And it was a very, very bizarre moment. Meanwhile, as this guy's like sort of feeling he needs to face off with me, there's this guy literally in his underwear writhing on the concrete in front of us. And it was like every time the guy would say an aggressive thing, the guy on the ground would like, "Ugh," he would like respond to it in this weird way. And so I kind of backed down and I was like, look, man, I was an addiction counselor for 7 years, which I was. It was literally my last, it was literally my last human, normal occupation. I was like, look, man, I was addiction counselor for, years. Trust me, he's just on drugs. He's going to be okay. And, they had already called 911 at this point, but it was just one of the most bizarre and comedic and also oddly disturbing. It was like this multi-level display of catastrophic human behavior and the resulting types of reactions that you'll see from different people in the world. Because as this guy was writhing and screaming on the ground, another neighbor from downstairs came out and was like, what's going on? I'm calling 911. And so, they call the 911 thing. She's like, what drugs is he on? Like shouting this out. And then other neighbors come out, and how there's a little crowd that will gather around everyone. The little crowd had gathered around, and I was kind of looking around, looking at like the aggressive guy, looking at this other guy in the back, looking at the woman, and we're kind of talking to him. And I was going through with him saying, look, man, you're having a chemical experience right now. You're going to be okay. You're in a wave. Breathe with me. For those of us that have been in those moments, you're like, just breathe. Come on, let's just breathe. Focus on the right now. I was talking to him, kind of, doing that. Meanwhile, this guy's like, I can handle it. Let me handle it. And I'm like, okay, go ahead. You can, feel free to handle it. But it was just wild because on one hand, you have the person, which I guess is me, that's like, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. And then you have the other people that are like, he's about to die. And then you have, like the older alpha guy who's like, I'm gonna handle this, and it's like, what is there to handle, bro? It was an amazing display of all of those things, and honestly, kind of a sad way, because I think for each of us out there, and yes, I can see your comments there. For each of us out there, or maybe not for each of us, some of us out there have been through experiences like that in this world. You know what I mean? Some of us have had that bad trip that literally went public. You know what I mean? And it was like I felt bad for this guy because he was laying there crying, writhing on the ground, going, somebody help my dogs, check my dogs. Are my dogs okay? And I was like, dude, your dogs are okay, man. They're in the apartment. You know what I mean? You're not, you're here, you're on, you're still on the earth. Like you got to tell people like it's okay, you're here, you have help. And it was like this part of me actually felt really sad for him because by the time the cops got there, because eventually somebody, they called 911. You realize that like this has now become a total, like, probably multi-month ordeal for this guy because they're going to take him to the hospital. They'll probably put him in mental health or something for a couple days, or they'll put him through this experience. And it's like I kind of put myself in that moment, and it's like, oh my god, how mortifying. And this part of me was like, maybe he was just a guy that wanted to take some mushrooms in the afternoon, and just have an experience, and shit went wrong, right? And it did. It's happened to, oh, here we go. What's up, Selena? Selena had it happen. One time I did mushrooms and had a bad trip and got arrested in a national state park. Oh man. I've had a couple of those. I never, for some reason, I never got arrested, but I have definitely had a couple of those. And, so, that guy, I guess they took him in the ambulance. They took him into custody, whatever they had to do. Like after a while, like by the time the cops got there and they got EMS, and I was sitting there on the stairs and I was like, okay, I was the first one out. I'll admit it. I was literally the first one out. I was like, I should probably just go eat. Oh, here we go. For me, I went and ran naked through the forest and then humped a tree, but I ate a lot of mushrooms. Okay, so yeah, you got pretty wild as well. Nice. That that is awesome, man. Totally, totally. Oh, Aurora Diamond Heart had it too. I only had one person with me, thank God, but I literally wanted. Sorry, I almost have to put on my sunglasses, you guys. For those who don't know, like the reason why I've been doing sunglasses on a lot of these shows is because I got new ones a while back, and for some reason, like the focus up close is very poor. But if I wear sunglasses, I can see the screen perfectly. Anyway, Aurora Diamond Heart says, I only had one person with me, thank God, but I literally wanted to rip my clothes off and run down the street. Absolutely insane. You know what? I will say I have had experiences like that. I certainly have. I will go through one really, really quickly. For me, this was, wow, I'm gonna date myself. Oh my God. This was probably 1990. Okay, it was post high school, it was just after high school, so probably 1996. So 1996, I was visiting my friend in San Francisco, and one of those days where you're like, yeah, let's just take mushrooms, not having any idea of anything about it. This is back in the 90s, so whole different experience and totally different world. And at the same time, we were like, yeah, and let's take this edible too with the mushrooms. For those who don't know, and that's probably a few people here, but if you don't, I mean, talk about a way to put yourself in an out of control state, like an edible and mushrooms on top of that. And for me, it ended up very much like Aurora Diamond Heart. And I think Selena was saying, I ended up running through the streets of San Francisco trying to find a cab, somehow thinking that I would be saved if I could get a sandwich from Subway, that if I ate a sandwich, I would be able to be okay. But what's wild is I don't remember specifically how I got separated from my friend. I remember after we took it and everything kind of kicked in, we were sort of like, let's go walk around. And we were just walking through the streets of San Francisco. And suddenly I was like, whoa, he was nowhere. I know he had a pretty weird experience as well, but nothing like I did. But I ended up literally having that moment, like a lot of people, probably like the guy on my doorstep, where I was like, this absolute frantic thing. And I remember like running through the streets. For me, it didn't last that long. Eventually, I found a BART station. For those of you guys that have been in the San Francisco Bay Area, you'll know BART. Eventually, I found a BART station, and I was able to like put together this idea that, okay, if I get on the BART, it'll take me closer to my house. I need to go home. The only problem was, as I was, on the bar or getting on the train, I could not read the writing of any of the signs. It was written in this alien script, in the midst of that mushroom wave. You're like, I can't understand anything, And so I got on this train. I ended up in a really, really weird part of the Bay Area. I think I went all the way to Concord. For those of you guys that are familiar with that, I think the literal end of one of the lines at that point was Concord. So in this weird mushroom edible haze, I ended up in Concord. And I remember getting out and somehow I could remember my dad's phone number. Get this, I could remember my dad's phone number. So this was in the time of payphones, right? Literally, this is in the time of payphones. And so I get on the phone and I call my dad and I'm like, Dad, I took too much mushrooms. I'm on the BART train. And he luckily, he, at that stage he was doing well. And he was like, he kind of guided me back on the train and eventually kind of guided me home. And he showed up at the train station and you'd think it would be all cool, but it wasn't cool. He actually made me walk home and he literally followed me on a bicycle for like 5 miles. And he was like, you're going to walk home. And he forced me to walk all the way to our house high on mushrooms, trailing behind me on a bicycle for probably like, I think it took 2.5, 3 hours of just walking until the wee hours of the night. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was a wild one. So it's like in a way, it's like I understand that. And there were others. There were other experiences. I could talk about some far worse ones, but that's a conversation for that's a conversation for another time. So the insanity of the modern world came and landed on our doorstep, you guys. We got to watch this guy have a crazy bad trip on mushrooms. And honestly, I feel really bad for him. I hope he's okay. He looked more like somebody's dad. Like that was the feeling I got. Like, how like you'll see a person for a moment and you kind of paint a picture, you create an identity around him. And like the one, and I don't know if it's true. I'm just telling you the energy that he gave off was like somebody's dad who had gone through like a divorce and was living by himself and was just going through some, you know what I mean? Like he was going through something in this weird way. So, man, anyway, I hope he's all right. Jason H says, my old neighbors had a bad trip and ended up convinced they had to break all the light bulbs. Whoa. I could see that. I am blessed that I never had any moments of like what we would call like wild violence or like crazy destruction. Well, I won't tell the whole story, but I would say the worst one that I had was in, I would want to say like 1998, 1999, in which I spent an entire day hiding inside a dumpster. For real. Yes, there's a whole story that goes along with that. No, we're not going to get into it today, but I will tell you this, cocaine and heroin were one hell of a combination, and that was it was a very strange time in my life. And yeah, let me tell you, I did write about it a bit in my book. Well, honestly, only in the very, very beginning, but it's a thing that I think about documenting in greater experience later. I think for those of you guys that know me, you'll know that one of the hallmark, I guess we could call soul wound or attachment or kind of like just growth, difficulty periods that I had in this life was in the mid 90s when I got addicted to heroin and cocaine, and it took up a huge chunk of my life. I'm blessed I never went to prison over it. You know what I mean? Didn't, I was able to steer clear of law enforcement for the most part, but I was one of those people that had to go to rehab literally like 15 times. I think honestly, in my case, it was 13. Had to go to rehab, 13 times and have all kinds of, life drama and just it was crazy. It was crazy, but it was, for like a lot of us, I think those are soul contract experiences that, we have. And we work our way through them and we come out on the other side as a testament to those who have worked through such things. And obviously in large part that was why later on, I chose to work in like addiction treatment and whatnot, because it just came natural. which for some people that's also a cop out. I got to be real. At that stage of my life when I was watching people do that, like, I got sober, therefore I should do this therapy thing for others. I think in most cases that was really just, a bypass to work they were doing for themselves. But whatever it was, it gave me the foundation, I think, of understanding the self that brought me to where we are here today. You know what I mean? It was like the foundational layers of soul growth and kind of healing experiences that I had to go through in order to get to this point. I think that there's a lot of you guys out there that have had very, very similar experiences. We have to go through crazy stuff. What's up, Brooks? Yeah, it is in a way. It is in a way. It's like an extension of the hero's journey that, we have to go through and sort of, facing ourselves. And it's not like it ends, really, I guess we could say, right? It's not like it ends. A certain chapter will end, and then, you know what I mean, we'll go through the process many times over, but yeah, and so I guess maybe that's why I feel for that guy. So before we move on, because I do have some stories to discuss with everyone and some minor announcements, and I mean this sincerely because I don't even know this dude, but let's just all send some positive energy out there to the random guy named Steve who was freaking out from mushrooms lying in his underwear on our doorstep about an hour ago. Well, seriously, send some positive energy out to that guy that his life is not ruined by the experience. Because, for some people, dude, they'll lose their jobs. You know what I mean? They don't show up at work. You know what I mean? Like, dude, that could wreck somebody. So I'm hoping nothing too bad happens to him, but totally. Up. Sandy Longjoy knows how it is. She has the pertinent and correct terminology. While in the rooms, quote unquote, heard a lot drawn to rehab counseling. My good friend did and was quite good at it. I think it's a natural kind of transition for a lot of us that will go through that experience. I think in some cases it's the best thing we can do. I think in other cases it's sort of just like a temporary stage of healing, because I'll just be real, during that stage of my journey when a lot of people were making that transition, most of them didn't last. Most of them didn't stay sober. Most of them and ended up developing even greater problems later on. It's like, I'm not trying to like flex anything, but I was one of few people that actually went through that experience with the people that I knew at the time and is still going to this day. And I think that's how it is for a lot of us that go through those types of addictions or that type of darkness. The reality is not that many people really make it through. You know what I mean? The ones that do will always know, like, yeah, and inevitably they'll be like, yeah, not a lot of people make it through. That's kind of how it was. And anyway, interesting anecdotes from the human world. But aside from that, I'll be honest, Austin, Texas has been really good to us so far. The food has been excellent. For those of you guys that don't know who are tuning in now, we did move from Florida over to Austin, Texas over the past couple months. Well, actually, honestly, just over the past month, we finally moved. But which is kind of one of the reasons why we haven't done a live stream. That I had a chakra class that was going on, and I'll be real. I have been disillusioned by the world of YouTube. I'm thinking of starting a second channel. Well, some of you guys know I do have a secret second channel, which we will not discuss here today, but thinking of starting another channel, possibly diversifying some content, maybe doing some other things, because, like it or not, love it or hate it, I mean, you could blame constant long form content, but the reality is this channel is in just a very unfortunate algorithmic cap or a loop in which, I think either based on the content, keywords, like I said, the long form content, whatever it is, it's just a thing that seems to be unable to grow. And I think, like, when I kind of look back at the last couple months, I think that's kind of one of the biggest reasons why I kind of fizzled out on doing YouTube stuff, because it feels like, there's no incentive to kind of push further. It's like there's such wild and bizarre censorship over fringe topics that, it's very strange. But anyway, oh, thank you, Cosmic Mama slash Erica, Woman of the Stars. Thank you. Thanks for rolling in. I appreciate your super chat. But yeah, Brooke says, I heard Austin is really, it is, it's really, really hot. I will say that. But you know what? Florida is really hot. Honestly, I would say it's pretty much identical in terms of temperature level with about half as much humidity. At least that's been our experience so far. It's been about the same temperature, just way less humid, which I'm going to be real is very, very welcome. I have to be completely honest with you guys, which is a thing. And I don't know, maybe this is where this live stream is going today, but I have to be real, you guys. I noticed that as soon as we moved out of Florida, health, just inflammation within the body, like stuff that I was dealing with at the time, which some of it was bad, some of it's good. You know what I mean? We all go through our little issues here. You know, some of you guys know I have had liver problems in the past, gallbladder stuff. You know, I've had a host of, normal human kind of age related things and some things that are not so normal as well. However, one thing I noticed is as soon as we departed, or rather, as soon as we arrived, out here in Texas, it's like something shifted, and it's like suddenly all this inflammation left the body. It's a very, very strange thing. A part of me wonders if it's a shift in humidity, if it's a shift in environment. Is it merely a shift in energy? Is it like a shift in personal energy? Is it a physical shift? Because you know how sometimes things just change, you know what I mean? But and we don't have to go into the specifics on what all has changed, but man, it has been shockingly, shockingly noticeable. One of those things where I'm like, you hear about people moving, and it sucks because here I am dating, myself, but like, you hear about people with like, yeah, I moved out to Arizona, like they're, like grandma and, like grandpa moved out to Arizona for their health. You heard of people doing that. And then I moved to a substantially drier climate. Not to say that Texas is dry because it's not. Trust me, I've been here before. I've spent time here and the humidity can get horrible, but just noticing the shift in that immediately having such a strange physical effect, it's very, very odd. It's a thing that cannot be denied, even if I have the wrong factors, you know what I mean, behind it. Very, very, very interesting thing. And so I'm grateful for it though. I'm grateful. Now I just have to get a haircut. Yeah, I know. I know, you guys. I really have to get a haircut. I just don't know where to go yet. I have not ventured far enough out of my area. I have to get a haircut and shave and kind of bring myself back into you know what I mean? I think I've been in like I just moved like hermit mode for the past I don't know, couple of weeks, but anyway, before we get going, because we're gonna do some readings, and I do have some kind of news things, which is very rare, but there was just a few things that happened over the past couple of days that I kind of want to talk about you guys or just kind of mention, but I also want to get opinions from you guys. So I'm gonna ask for your comments on these. And actually, let's just go for that now. Actually, before that, I do want to let you know, while we are going to be doing readings in a little while here, you can be guaranteed, you can literally be guaranteed to get a reading this weekend on Saturday. We are doing our monthly Patreon group meeting in the Blue Flame Collective. For those of you guys that don't know, and for those of you guys that do know, I'm sorry, I have to give the whole you already know what I'm gonna say. Some of you guys know, like, okay, here he goes. But we have been doing this group nearly for the no, not nearly, literally every month for nearly 5 years. And it's coming up this Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing our monthly reading group where a bunch of people gather together over Zoom and everyone gets a reading. Everyone that shows up gets a reading. We answer questions. We can talk very uncensoredly about literally anything you want to talk about. It's honestly it's always awkward saying it because I never expected it. It's a well-established, long-running group of people that have been gathering together for literally 5 years straight. And it's coming up this Saturday, and you can literally join it. You will be guaranteed to get a reading. And sometimes it takes a while. Like I'll just be real. Sometimes a lot of people show up to the meeting, and when we get going, it can be like an hour, and you're just like sometimes more, depending on how many people show up. I'm just being honest with you guys. So there, it is a long process of hanging out, which I've had some, every now and then some people are like, no, I want it now, you know, so, there is a line process that we go through. We go through the chat and get to everyone. But the cool part is we get through everyone. And the cool part is it's a very good way to engage in what I believe to be and what has been historically shown over the past 5 years to be a legitimate channel of intuitive information that we create monthly between myself and my wife, Honora, that seems to work. And the only reason why I say that is not because, we make tons of money or because it's super famous. It seems to work because somehow people keep coming back, and it's been years now. And it like still goes, and I'm like, wow, okay, all right, it's still happening, cool. And so I'm very, very grateful for it. And I think it's a very low cost way of learning what is it like when you get a mini intuitive authentic reading, an authentic into a authentic intuitive mini reading. That's what I was trying to say. Because I would say that is one thing that we strive for greatly, is keeping it authentic, not getting swept away in like the fantasy of the moment. Although I am prone to getting swept away and a lot of ranting, so I suppose that could be the bad part. You'll have to listen to me talk for like 2.5 hours again. Except that Nora is there, so she actually balances it out. She actually balances it out. Oh, thank you, Selena. Selena says, because, yeah, thank you. It's mainly Nora. She kind of carries the whole thing. People that have been there know they're like, yeah, she kind of does. But anyway, Brandy Dawn says there are always messages in others' readings. I believe that there are. That was one of the things that I discovered early on. And I will admit that that was the thing that I was told by the one and only real mentor I ever had that kind of got me started in this. And she was like, it's really good to listen to other people's readings. It's strange how much people program you in the beginning. And I realized that I was blessed to have at least one person that showed up and foretold a bunch of things in my life that literally came true. I mean, so much of the foundation of what I do as a professional psychic, in every single way was all born of, one person, really. And then, there's a lot of other people that you meet along the years that help you shape that. But, I always say it, thank you to Britain. She was the one that got me started in this. And she's also who my book is dedicated to. For those of you guys that do want to pick it up, I'm shocked that maybe I shouldn't say that. That's too dep deprecating. But I'm shocked that every month I kind of look at the little Amazon thing, and people keep buying it out there. So thank you to those of you that have. But if for those that want to read a little deeper into the story, or let's just say if you're from a 3-letter agency and you're profiling me for future activity, it's a really good book to get. It's literally everything you need. It's also how I got to the point that we are at right now. And I wanted to say thank you for the super chat, Aurora Diamond Heart. But yeah, I appreciate it, you guys. So we do have a couple things we're going to mention. There's been some stuff that's happened over the past couple days. And I want to get your guys' view upon this, or what your take is. And so some of you guys have already heard of this. I'm going to share the screen, although what's weird is for some reason the images are not showing in the moment. The text is showing in the moment, but the images aren't. But we're going to check it out really quick, okay, guys? So we're going to shift over, and I want you guys to tell me, what do you feel? What do you see? I think that this is a really good example of a good opportunity to test and develop our intuitive sensing and precognitive abilities, or we could even say remote viewing. And so some of you guys have already, oh no, look, the images are here. We found it. Okay, this is a good sign. So some of you guys have heard of this already. Maybe you got, I saw it mentioned on something. I was like flipping through, the world of YouTube the other day, and I saw this story: a giant hot blob. First off, like as soon as you see that, right, you're like, wait, okay, a giant hot blob. You know what I mean? Like, okay, a giant hot blob is heading toward New York City, and it may be capable of dividing continents. So there's a lot of other headlines that are much more sensational about this that you can look up. This was the one that for some reason earlier I was just looking for like an image, a depiction of it. But what they say is this is moving underground. I think right now it's in the ocean. Here's what you'll learn when you read this story. This is why I chose this one because it had a really good set of simple data points. Experts believe a giant mass of hot rock known as the North Atlantic Anomaly is heading toward New York City. The new study suggests that the NAA, the North Atlantic Anomaly, could be responsible for the split between Canada and Greenland 80 million years ago. The recent research adds to previous studies pointing to a new hypothesis in geological history. Now, this article is a lot more, we could say scientifically, maybe geologically kind of focused. We're looking at it from a more continental perspective, the theory of continental drift, et cetera, et cetera. The question that I have for those of you guys that are here today is number one, maybe you've already heard this story. A lot of people have already heard about this. And I intentionally chose kind of a drier article on it because I want to see what this brings up for you guys. Now, I'm going to kind of front load everybody with just some stuff that we might already be aware of. People have heard talk of things like giant arc ships. People have heard talk about various portals or inner realms opening up at some point, or maybe even maybe even some kind of military thing, governmental, military, technological thing. But first off, my question is, since when the hell has there been a North Atlantic anomaly? I mean, really though, like, is that all of a sudden a thing? Or, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden there's a scientific term for it. But anyway, I want to know, what do you guys think? Seriously, let me know. Aurora Diamondheart says, is that a movie, The Blob? Maybe it is. See, and then it right, and then it goes over to the Blob, the movie. Is it a living organism? Perhaps. What the hell is it doing down there? Is it just like sliding underneath the ground? Is it in a tunnel? I mean, I'm saying this in like a humorous way, but I'm like, what is this thing doing? And here's Kelly Dolan with a good question or a good comment. It's being pulled, not pushed. That's my initial impression. Who's pulling it? Who's pulling it? What would they be pulling it for? And I'm just putting those questions out there. I have some of my own ideas on it. I'm going to mention them in a moment. I know I kind of front loading everyone here. Jason says it's a movie and a remake. It probably is. I mean, hell, this should be a movie. Is this a distraction, you guys? I guess I'm gonna say it, although I'm not super focused on this, you know what I mean? Phil, I was like, what, I'm kind of one of the only ones, but is this one of those like those distractions that they'll try to put up to stop people from caring about an Epstein list or something? Is this one of those? Because we're gonna see a couple other really big ones in a moment. But so we have some interesting theories. What's up, Felicia? Oh, I thought this was a theory. She's okay, cool. I'm glad. Thank you for rolling through. I hope your horse is doing well. Let's see. They also what? They also have the character in Doom Patrol that turns into okay. 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 Brian Larson says now they need to make a sequel called Giant Hot Blob. Right, totally right. Like summer edition. Hot summer 2025 giant hot blob, you know what I mean, right? There's too much marketability in it. My question is, what is the hot blob? Now, once again, I intentionally chose a less sensational article because there's so many directions people are already going with this. What do you feel? I'm gonna wait for one of your comments. I want a sincere one. What do you perceive the hot blob as being? What do you think its role is? Is this a distraction? Is this a thing that's going to surface? Is this going to be, I mean, literally, you guys, wasn't this, okay, I'm just going to say it, and I'm kind of shocked that nobody else has said it. Isn't this what happened in Ghostbusters 2? Isn't this what seriously? This is fucking Ghostbusters 2, you guys. Do you remember that shit? Where like, like they went down in the sewer. I mean, there's even that brilliant scene in Ghostbusters 2, I think, where or it might be Ghostbusters 1, where Ray is driving on the freeway in the Ghostbuster mobile with the other dude, like the black guy, and they're talking about like the end of times, and he's quoting like a Bible script, you know what I mean? You guys, what if, I'm just saying, was Ghostbusters 2 soft disclosure? That's what this is really about. Ghostbusters, I'm being totally joking here, but I mean, this was kind of forecasted, right? So basically, what is it? Is it lava? Is it ectoplasm? Is it feeding off the negative energy of New Yorkers? Was it summoned by the corporate criminal, multidimensional cabal? You know what I mean? Where did it come from? Jason says they're releasing Ninja Turtles in theaters. I have actually heard of this. That's crazy because I was there for the first one. But anyway, you guys, so we see the plot of Ghostbusters 2 returning, literally manifesting in the real world. The question is, what do we do about the giant hot blob? That is the question. What do we do? Yeah. Oh, yeah. The song. Total. Okay. So this is probably the best answer yet. So what we need to do is we need to get some people down to New York City and we need to get into the sewer. Is there anybody here on this live stream that can get us access to the New York sewer? If it is, please speak up right now. Because I think maybe we need to put together a little bit of a mission down there. We need to get a mission down there. Just be aware that if you do touch the blob, you're probably going to have a meltdown. Because remember, like, I think it was, which one of them was it? Egon? No, I think it was Venkman, right? Like Venkman got a bunch of the goo on him, and they started they started fighting. So number one, we cannot touch it. But number two, I guess really the question is why now? What impact, what does this mean for, society as a whole? Are we going to have a 20-story tall Stay Puft Marshmallow Man wandering Central Park soon? Is that a possibility for us? Because the Simpsons, you guys, right? Okay, the Simpsons have been doing it for what, 20 years now, maybe more, right? Simpsons have been doing this for 20 years. Why not Ghostbusters? Is there another 80s movie that you wish would manifest in the physical world? This is a sincere question to everyone that is here. If you could manifest an 80s movie into your physical timeline, which if you could manifest a 1980s movie into your physical timeline right now, which one would it be? Let us know in the chat. If you can manifest an 80s movie into your physical timeline, which one would it be? The first one that comes to mind for me, and maybe this is just the coolness factor, the first one that comes to mind for me is Blade Runner. But I think that's partially because I have a bizarre, I have like a weird childlike obsession with Blade Runner. I could quote the entire movie to you for real. Even the Harrison Ford version 1 shitty narration lines I still know. But yeah, so my first instinct goes with a Blade Runner type scenario, but the reality is that doesn't really bode well for most people. That would not. The reality is, if we suddenly descended into a Blade Runner type of, what I mean, we would probably not be having a good time, right? You know what I mean? It's like replicants. You know what I mean? The world was trashed. For anyone that has actually read the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? You'll know that there was no animals. There was virtually no animals left on Earth at that point. So, all the animals were literally cloned at that stage. But anyway, it's an amazing book. I was literally that obsessed with Blade Runner, you guys. I read the book. I read like the books about the production of it. I think at a certain point, although I didn't read it all, I'd had like a book that was like a mix up of certain elements of unreleased script stuff that they had done, and yeah, I get super fixated on a number of things. Blade Runner was an early one, a very early stage fixation for me. Brandy Dawn says Back to the Future. Hell yeah, that is an excellent choice. So, in what way would that manifest, though, Brandy Dawn? Would it be like suddenly we have a DeLorean, or would that be like you would be traveling back to 1985? Would it be like a worldwide event? You know what I mean? Or would it be like suddenly manifested a DeLorean and boom, here we are? Kelly Dolan says Buckaroo Banzai. You know what's wild? I remember watching that as a kid with my dad, and I have like no memory of it. It's weird. It's like erased from my mind, which is weird. I remember the guy that was in it. Was it? He was the guy that did RoboCop, right? Maybe not. Kelly's gonna know, or he's not gonna know. But I remember the movie. It's just I have so virtually no. It's kind of erased from my early childhood memory. And I don't even think for a bad reason. It's just one of those ones, you know what I mean? I think The Matrix was like that. Like when The Matrix first came out, I watched it and it went through one side of my head and out the other. And then I watched it again like a year later. And the second time it was weird. It was like for some reason I was just totally I was like, what? That was kind of lame. Like the very first time I watched it. I don't know why. I don't know why that happened to me. Then again, that was also during a heavy drug phase, so that could also be it, you know what I mean? That was the '90s for me, you guys. Hopeful Art says we could go on a Goonies type adventure. You know what? I'm gonna switch my vote over to Goonies because I think that would be probably the most meaningful and unifying one of the most meaningful and unifying events we could have. Everybody on this live stream, there's only 21 people. Thank God our channel is not getting exposed to a much wider, more profitable audience, because then there would be more than 21, and that's way too many people to fit in the sewer. So thank God. Oh shit, there's 24 now. Okay, well, there's still room. But think about that. If everybody on this live stream, if we all of a sudden went down into the sewer and did this Goonies type adventure, complete with the pirate ship, right? You know what I mean? Like with the pirate ship and the jewels and One-Eyed Willie and everything. I do remember I did go to the movie theater and see the Goonies as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Water slides. Yep. Absolutely. So you guys give me another one. What's another movie? Kelly says Buckaroo Banzai and his crew of humans versus a group of interdimensional malevolent entities. I don't know. It's almost like that's kind of happening right now on the Earth plane already, right? That one kind of already manifested. Never ending story. Boom. There we go. You know what though? When you look back on that one, and here's the thing. I genuinely love that movie, but when it came out as a kid, I did not love it. I was very affected by it. You know what I mean? I was kind of avoidant of it after we saw it. I remember my mom and sisters wanted to rent it, later on, and they wanted to watch it over and over again. And for some reason, I was like, no, I don't want, you know what I mean? I got really hit by Neverending Story, but there was a lot of really wild themes in that, I think, that could be pretty pertinent for right now. I mean, but the question is, does that mean that we're faced with the nothing and that we have to find some way to stop the destruction of our world? I mean, we might already say that it's happening, but damn, that's a hell of a journey, man. That's a hell of a journey. For real. You know what I mean? Like that's a hard one, bro. Cause you know that one where, like the horse dies in the swamp of sadness. You know what I mean? I remember that was a scene in that movie where I remember I was totally acting like I wasn't sad. I remember my mom and sisters were all crying and I was like, I don't care. I was totally that kid at the never ending story. But yeah, there we go. Brian, Brian got it. Totally right. It's that moment where, the horse ends up, like giving up. And although I do really love the part where he faces off with that weird beast, and he has this conversation with that beast, like in that hole, and he's like, "We're here because people stopped dreaming," or something along those lines. He was like speaking symbolically to the death of wonder and the childlike mind. You know what I mean? That was a heavy it was a heavy moment, but it's a hell of a journey. It's okay. So we have some really good suggestions here. Some really good suggestions. We're gonna check out another thing. So back to the blob. I'm just gonna give you my own take on it currently. It feels like something that has been going on for quite some time. I do feel that there are other anomalies like this present in other parts of the world that are being monitored heavily. I think that part of one of the reasons why it was being brought out right now, in some ways, is distractionary, but it is also related with certain events that might be taking place outside of our dimension, or what some might even call in astral, or even pertaining to extraterrestrial activity. Now, in the past, there's been a lot of talk throughout, whatever school or kind of soul group or social scene of disclosure you follow, and so some of you guys won't even believe in what I'm talking about, but there have been talk in the past of things like arc ships or massive living structures that exist underground that are essentially mobilizing and sort of reactivating, maybe, moving again in a new way. And in my opinion, I think that this sort of anomaly that we're spotting that's moving and, supposedly on its way to New York, is an example of something that is stretching outside of this dimensional plane. I think it holds a frequency of energy that is beyond the physical events that it may cause. And that is to say, I don't think it will cause any notable physical events. I don't think there will be any sort of separation of continent or any type of, cataclysm that comes from this. In fact, I would imagine this will be one of the only times it'll have a limited exposure. It feels like, just on the internet as a whole, like we're not going to hear too much about it. But in my opinion, I think it is mildly significant. And I think that there's a lot more than just a molten blob of lava circulating underground going toward New York. I think it has something to do with either a movement or a repositioning of certain energies, groups, or possibly even a testing and refocusing of something. It's like something is being moved, there's a repositioning, there is a non-human element to it. And I don't mean AI. I feel like something outside of that. And even when I say non-human, it could even be elemental, which is a weird category to fall in, because I think when people talk about elemental energetic frequencies, they can be meaning a lot of things. Some elemental frequencies are sentient and living. I mean, if you want to get technical, there's a whole realm that goes along with each element: earth, air, fire, water. And so it comes with it a lot of things and a lot of possible meanings. So I'm not going to try to nail it down and say, guys, it's Solar Warden secret space program, repositioning an arc ship. I don't know. I'm not saying it's that. What I'm saying is that there is something more significant within the appearance and the reporting upon this. There's a multidimensional aspect and something that feels outside of humanity's grasp that is happening here. But like I just said, I don't even necessarily think we're going to hear too much about it. But every now and then, little pieces like this will kind of squeak through, right? They'll sort of squeak through into the news and sort of, could be pointing to something entirely different, but you know what I mean? The cracks will show. And I think along with that, we have something very, very different. So we're gonna check out something else here. So I think somebody just mentioned it in the chat as well. Where did it go? Here it is. Boom. Because then there's also this, right? A lot of you guys have already heard about this. This is sort of old news by now. We've heard about the Atlas comet, right? Harvard physicist claims new interstellar comet is alien probe. Here it is. There it is. Atlas rolling through space. So a lot of you guys have heard about this right now, or by now, excuse me. An unexpected visitor to our solar system spotted earlier this month might be a piece of alien technology. That is according to one professor from Harvard University. Three Eye Atlas, which is the only the third known interstellar object ever recorded, was detected on July 1st by NASA's Atlas telescope in Chile. Despite being officially classified as a comet, theoretical physicists, and so this is the moment. And I know a lot of you guys know this, okay? When you see this name on your screen, Avi Loeb, okay? Whenever you see this name attached to anything having to do with ufology or UAPs or disclosure, this is this is basically no better than what's that guy's name from the UK, Nick Pope. It's no better than I'm just gonna say it's no bet honestly, no better than Stephen Greer at this point. You know what I mean? Really, this is an establishment, you know what I mean? This is essentially like the establishment of establishment, Harvard, you know, like so take this with a grain of salt. Not saying that makes it any more or less true. Not saying it makes it, even real, but despite being heavily or not heavily, despite being officially classified as a comet, theoretical physicist Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard University has argued that the object could have been sent by an alien civilization. Loeb explained that the object's trajectory, size, and behavior suggest it could be something far more advanced than a natural occurrence and could instead be some form of alien craft or probe. The retrograde orbital plane of 3I Atlas around the sun lies within 5 degrees of that of Earth. The likelihood for coincidence out of all random orientations is 0.2%, Loeb told Newsweek. That essentially means, for those that don't understand that, if I'm reading too quickly, or maybe I'm making too much out of this, but that's essentially saying that this object was aimed directly, maybe not deliberately, because there's a 2.2% chance it's just randomly aimed there, but you know what I mean. It's being driven past Earth, and so even if it is some establishment, you know what I mean, kind of government version of a authority on the matter. A lot of other people have been talking about this. The internet is lousy with opinions and ideas, and some people are already saying, yeah, well, don't you know the secret space program already went out there and they've already what I mean. There's so many stories. I did read that yesterday. Somebody is saying that the SSP has already gone out there and boarded the ship, and that whole story. And who knows? You know what I mean? It's like, I will make light of such things. However, it's entirely possible. I can tell you what it feels like. I do believe it to be a autonomous craft of sorts. By autonomous, I mean self-guided, we could say self-aware. I'm not saying sentient. I'm not saying a living being. It does feel like it's an autonomous craft that is, being deliberately guided to make a flyby toward planet Earth. I think when I feel into the energy of it, I'm going to get very woo-woo for a moment. It comes with a lot of information, which is one of the things that tells me there's a lot of authenticity. Not to say that anyone was doubting that there's a giant comet going by. For those that remember Oumuamua from, what was that, 2017, I mean, that was every bit as real as this. It feels similar in that it feels younger than Oumuamua. Oumuamua felt like it had been kind of a derelict version of some type of a craft. This one feels much more aware. It does come with information. I think it comes with certain frequencies that are meant to kind of work their way through the overall environment, what we would call like the multidimensional ecosystem that kind of surrounds Earth, and a couple other, what we would call, like, get ready, this is going to be a weird statement, like shadow realms or planets or pocket dimensions that sit alongside Earth. which is a whole other, that's like a whole other conversation for another time. But it's almost like there's multiple versions of Earth that will be affected when certain things happen within the solar system, which is kind of hard to grasp onto. Other people have mentioned it, but there's like a multitude of realms and kind of yeah, there's multitude of realms contained within one biosphere. And so when an object like this passes by, it can have a bigger effect on different layers within that dimensional makeup. And I think this is one where we will see sort of a trickle down effect of changes in consciousness, possibly. It could come with information, it could come with environmental changes. One thing I can tell you is that, just from, if you want to call it a psychic perspective, I mean, if you want to go there, it does not feel as though it has anything to do with anything like a pending invasion. There's no negativity attached to it. It's not a polarity based incident. You know what I mean? One of the ways you guys can think of it is that there's a truck driving by and there's some boxes that could very well fall off the back of that truck and just make their way out there. You know what I mean? It's like some stuff's gonna fall off of that truck, and honestly, I think it feels as though there's a lot of people already connecting with an element within this comet that will allow you to interface with it, meaning that I think it's a little bit like not like an AI. I don't think it's driven or populated by an AI. It looks like a slightly different system, but it might have elements of that just based on how advanced it is. But it does feel like a thing that you can interface with. Not to say that I can or can't. I'm not trying to say like I'm going to channel this shit, because get ready. If somebody hasn't done that already, I swear to God, dude, you're gonna see it on YouTube in the next few days. I'm channeling this. I mean, get ready. You know it. You know it's gonna happen. But the reality is that there's a lot of possibilities and authenticity that do come with the idea that we would channel the energy of such things, because certain things like this will come with an ability to interface. They will come with information. They will come with changes. I could go on and on about it, but um, I will check your comments. Jason H says, "Do we figure where comments are for our charts?" I don't know. I'm probably the worst person to ask about somebody's astrological chart. A lot of you guys know this. Someone knows exactly what I'm going to say. I'm the least astrological psychic in the world. Actually, I don't think I'm the least. I'm one of the least astrological psychics. Everything I do is based off of empathic, or what I would call multi-dimensional energy reading. It's more reading the energy of the guides that you're with, the frequencies that are around you, just, the energies of the auric field, where they're going, where they're coming from. I would say more so than looking at anyone's chart or pathway. But I will say they both often lead to the same places, and I think it is an absolutely invaluable knowledge base that you can have. I've just become lazy. I tend to ask my wife, or I ask Mario Maharas if I have a question about astrology. But Brian Larson says it's true. We only see the third plane, a very limited light spectrum. We're swimming in layers we can't. Exactly. He gets it. Totally. It's like there's a lot more that I think there's like bigger changes that will happen within the other layers, which I think is very, very common. Third density being the layer of cause and effect and physicality. There's so many what they often call heavier, denser experiences that will make their way down here, and there's even greater amount of things that can't really be perceived here, except through the subtle channels and through the wavelengths of internal information and the manner in which each of us connects with non-physical energy in our own way. But I think that Oumuamua brought changes in information and sort of, some people would even say upgrades. Honestly, if Sean Bond was here, I'm saying this in a respectful way, by the way, not a mocking way. If Sean Bond was here, he would say it comes with upgrades. Which, I mean, if you want to get technical, it's absolutely true. It certainly can. It can literally affect and change your consciousness. I'm not saying that's what's happening here. You know what I mean? On one side, we have, some weirdo on YouTube saying it's going to change your consciousness. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have some talking head stuff shirt from Harvard saying, well, it could be a possible alien invasion. You know what I mean? Each side of that spectrum will sound equally insane, you know, depending on who and where and what you believe in. But the Atlas comet. And so, anyway, before we pull off of this, what do you guys think? What do you guys believe? What's going on with the Atlas comet? I'm going to scroll through and try to grab some more of your comments here. Let me know. What do you think about this? Sandy Songjoy said it was phony disclosure. Brian Larson kind of agreed. So, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they are. Honestly, why the hell not? Why not? Can something happen? You know what I mean? Oh, in a good way. I was like, maybe a chaotic way. You know what I'm saying? Maybe in a chaotic way. Jason says it's bigger than Oumuamua. It probably is. I think even like physically it's bigger, right? Like, so that's true in a number of ways. It says it has too strange of properties to be a comet. I agree. I think it is an autonomous or semi-autonomous craft. I think it is being self-propelled right now. There may or may not be, people or beings riding in it. I think what we'll discover about some of these, like autonomous kind of biologically created kind of comet-like craft, is that there will be a host of different beings that will inhabit that craft at different stages. I know that's hard for some people to grasp, meaning that this object will be on a trajectory through time and space. And based upon where it is within that spectrum of time and space, a different group or a different frequency or a different race of beings will interface with it. Sometimes a little bit like a bus line. You know what I mean? Like some people will get on here and they'll get off there, and that guy's going to get on at this stop and they'll get off at that stop. And that might sound crazy to some people, right? Because it probably doesn't fit in with, like the cool popular people's take on what's happening. But from what I've been shown, that's a lot more common than what people believe. Is that there's a host of many different objects and beings and even realms and even these like simulated kind of experiences that will occur on these other planets, or what some people would call like asteroids, or mini planets, where there's a bunch of different groups of beings that will use this as a staging area. Sometimes, from a human perspective, we could think of it as, a place where a person would hold an event. You know what I mean? If you want to make it really silly, I'm going to make it super silly and super, super basic. Okay, you guys, almost like a party bus, a multi-dimensional party bus. I know that just dumbed it down way too far. I'm sorry I went there, but no, really, I think that that they will discover such things will be inhabited and used by a host of many different beings. I think that there are makers and creators of such things, but that is guided and sort of powered by the craft itself, meaning by the actual craft. You know what I mean? That, which in some ways I think they are literally living beings that experience life or are sentient in a different way than, we would experience it. So anyway, I feel like I'm articulating this in a very, very bizarre way, but I think some of you guys are understanding me. Some of you guys are kind of picking it up in your own way. Jason said, same director. Oh yeah, Fifth Element was a hell of a movie. Pedro, not Pascal, says the Atlas Gate. It probably is. There is a gateway-like effect. It's like, who is to say within the multidimensional realms, a gateway has to be like a doorway or a portal with a key? What if the gateway is brought by a multidimensional object passing through that a host of many different races have an ability to interface with, to exchange data? You know what I mean? I could go on, and maybe I don't need to. Maybe it doesn't even make any sense. You know, maybe it does. Hopeful Art says, I was thinking cat bus from my friend Totoro. Totally. I know of that cartoon. I haven't seen it, but I know of it. So I I will agree with you. Maybe Kelly Dolan has a good breakdown. An initiating force, a catalyst, a trigger of sorts, something that was planned a very long time ago. Boom. Very good. I agree with you. Something that brings the winds of change, kind of like the wake that erupts from a boat that passes through water, creates waves. Jason says, I think another Kool-Aid cult is going to use the comet. You know what? I don't know about you guys, but I am old enough to remember the Heaven's Gate cult and the comet, the Hale Bopp comet. I remember it was out in the sky for like a couple months straight, as I recall, back in the 90s. I think it was. Was that 1994, you guys? Somebody out there knows. Uh, but yeah, I mean that comet hung out in the sky for a while, which was a bizarre thing. I remember going outside and looking at it, be like, "Whoa." Um, yeah, it was there for a little bit. Maybe I'm tripping and it wasn't. Somebody's gonna be like, "No, it wasn't. It was only there for one day." I swear to God, it seemed like around that time there were multiple nights in which I would walk outside and be like, "Where's the comet? Where's the comet? Where's the comet?" You look around and you could see it still in the sky with a little tail, behind it. And maybe I'm tripping. I don't know. Maybe that's a Mandela effect where I'm like, I swear to God, I remember the Hale Bopp comet was in the sky for like a month. It might not have been, but I imagine this part of me thinks there's been a number of other Kool-Aid cults since then. For those that don't know, what we're referring to is the Heaven's Gate cult who did a mass unaliving. I guess we can just say it's suicide. We're already on like on the bad YouTube list. They won't bring any. This video will not be in your suggested viewing. So I guess we'll say the word. Yeah, it was a cult mass suicide event that took place in the 1990s in conjunction with a comet that was passing through. And honestly, that was a fascinating event. I know, very, very tragic at the same time, but I remember being absolutely fascinated by it at that stage. That was the 90s. Might as well say all the words again, right? Right. I did this guy's podcast a while back, you guys. I did this show called the Jeff Mara podcast. For those of you guys that don't know, here I'm going to stop sharing. But a while back, I did this show called the Jeff Mara podcast, which I guess is a pretty big podcast. Um, it's odd. Some people are still booking with me from that, which is very cool. I'm very, very grateful for that. But they had a lot of restrictions. I couldn't say certain words. I had to say unalive. You know what I mean? I had to choose my language so carefully. Um, and I don't know why I'm mentioning it here, but I'll just say it. I was shocked and bummed when they posted the video. They posted the he posted the interview that we did, and they focused in on just the worst part of it, which really happens. You know what I mean? You guys see this a lot. People do a show or they do an interview, and you think it's about this, you think you're going to tell this part of your story, and you end up telling this whole other thing, and then they hyper focus on it. You know what I mean? And yes, it was me telling the reptilian experience stories that I had. It was supposed to be about mantis beings and my what I believe to be extraterrestrial experiences that literally changed the path of my life, pertaining to some praying mantis ETs that I had encountered. But it turned into a reptilian thing. And then I was shocked when the interview came out and they gave it the worst title. I mean, I'm just gonna say it was like the most cringe title that could have ever been given, and it was "Helpless Man Examined by Reptilian," and I was just like, you just sit there and go, yeah, hmm yes, that is true. you know because the reality is, it was true. It was I mean, you boil it down to its purest essence, that's literally what it was. I mean, this is literally what they did. They examined me and flipped me over and turned me around like a fucking animal, out of the ocean. And, didn't try to eat me, didn't try to tear me up. But you know what I mean? So that was true. And I was helpless. I could not stop it. So, I mean, the guy told the truth. But you know what I mean? Talk about the most like undignified. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Clickbait. Clickbait. Pedro Pascal and Aurora Diamondheart got it. Clickbait. It was. They gave it such a clickbaity title that I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm gonna be honest. I never shared it. I never shared the video. I didn't even tell anybody that I was on the show. For those of you guys that know me, you will notice I never mentioned it. I never talked about me being on that show. I don't think I posted it on anything. And what's weird is it has the most views of anything I've ever done. Yeah, like mic drop. It has the most views of anything I've ever done on the internet, pretty much. So, thanks, Jeff Mara podcast. No, no, seriously though, because the guy was awesome. He was an amazing guy. He was super cool. You know what I mean? Incredibly accessible. I'll say another one that I did at the Full Disclosure Now conference was I did an interview with the guys from the Y Files. For those of you guys that know that channel, the Y Files, it was an incredible interview. I really enjoyed it. It was awesome. And part of me is like, I wonder if that will ever air. I think it was one of those ones where I was too real. You know what I mean? And I think that's like the fate of certain people in our soul group. You know what I mean? It's like people can only handle a certain amount of realness in hearing bizarre multidimensional tales. If you get real to a certain point, people are like, okay, thank you. You know what I mean? It turns into something a little bit bizarre. And in hindsight, I think I probably pushed it too far. So who knows? That one will probably end up on the cutting room floor. Or if it ever does come out, maybe it'll have a super cringe title. I don't know because I wasn't really familiar with their channel, but I watched some stuff since then and I'm like, it might end up being a little cringe. I don't know, but anyway, I'll just say the Y-Files guy was amazing. He was really cool. They were very friendly. They were awesome people to talk to. I pray that it airs because it would be amazing. You know what I mean? Um, it was a cool experience, but you never know. You never know what'll happen. But anyway, all that aside, yeah. So it does. It gets a little cringe. Anyway, back to the Atlas comment, you guys. There's a lot of changes, this was weird reverse transition, but I think whether or not it has anything to do with that comment, I think we're going to notice a bunch of really bizarre changes that are going to take place in the second half of 2025. If you want to call it a little bit of a premonition, I do believe we're going to see, this is me making it earthbound and very third density political. I do believe that there's a very specific creation path toward new riots. I never get political in here, but there's an interesting energy around the posturing of DC being sort of federalized and what I believe are certain kind of, plans and things that are kind of being hidden underneath. And I'm not saying that it's like full distractionary things. I think what we're watching is like little arms and vestiges and capillaries of like World War III being sort of played out in this really bizarre way. And so I think part of that comes with some geopolitical strife that is sort of scheduled to be sparked up in the coming months. There's a chance that it might not happen, but and I know a lot of you guys will agree, it's like it's being heavily placed within what I would call the collective unconscious, or what some people would even refer to as the astral. It's like the suggestiveness of that is being just placed there every day over and over and over again through a whole bunch of events and just stuff that's going on. You know what I mean? World, wars here, wars there. And then, a lot of people are still going on and on and on about the Epstein list, which I do believe is critically important. I think for an understanding of the dark underbelly and some of the horrible atrocities that have occurred throughout history. But I'm just going to say something before we move on to our next news story. And then after that, yes, I promise we are going to do some readings. But I'll just say this because I don't know that I've necessarily had a chance to voice this publicly. But and this might sound horrible, but I do not believe in our current timeline, if you want to call it that, if you want to use that word timeline, if you want to call it our current version of collectively created reality. I think that we have, well, I'll just put it this way. I think that unknowingly we have collectively created a situation in which the so called Epstein list will never be released. Not the real one, not the full version. Never. It's not intended to come out. And some people are going to hear me say that and they're going to go, "Oh my God, what are you talking about? That's horrible." The children, and because some people get so deeply, deeply triggered by that. And rightfully so, let me just say, and rightfully so. But I don't believe that is part of the current plan. I don't believe that it's going to take place. And there's a lot of reasons why or why not. I think that there's a chance that we're going to get somewhat of a compromise scenario in the months or years to come in which we receive partial lists or partial elements of the information that people are asking for. But I think part of what seems to be going on right now is a bidding process for people who want to be removed from it. Because I think the unfortunate truth is that even the people that you know and love in the heights of society are a part of this. And no, I'm not going down the Trump's there too. I'm not trying to weigh in on that. I'm just saying that this is one of those moments for those of you guys that are really working with, understanding the intuitive flow of non-physical information that exists in this world, that honestly is available for anyone to look at. Anyone can feel into it. Anyone can meditate upon it. Anyone can interface it. You don't have to be a professional psychic. It's a thing that I do every day. And so it's a thing that I'm comfortable with doing, but it's something that anyone can do upon feeling into the energy of the current climate or the situation. And I think that there's a lot of people that would agree with me in the way that we've allowed reality to be set up right now. And it's not that we allowed it or created it. We gave power to the wrong beings. In many ways, it was co-opted and stolen. We all know the stories. We don't have to go down that explanation loop. But we have cultivated a socio-political climate in the United States that has made it fundamentally impossible, by my current belief, for the entirety of that list to be released. It's not going to happen. And I wish it would. It would be cool. But what's crazy is I think that it's not even, it's like that's not going to give people what they're hoping for. I think that they'll, let's say if it did drop, there would be a lot of shock and awe, and there would be a lot of people that are like, okay, anyway, boom. And there's going to be an even greater amount of people on Earth who will just be like, what? What's that? Huh? Is gas going down? Fuck it. You know what I mean? Because the reality is, most people who are unaware of the topics and the greater, working of, the dark underbelly of what's going on Earth, they're not even going to know. It's like, I think a lot of times we get pigeonholed into the echo chamber of social media and thinking that the entire world cares about the thing that we care about, because it gets spit back to us on YouTube and on Facebook over and over again. And people forget that that's actually what it is designed to do, to feed you back that over and over again and create that false sense of urgency so you'll continue to consume the content. It sucks to say it. It's horrible. It's sad, but the majority of the world doesn't actually really care. And I'm not trying to be callous. I'm not trying, please, because some people, they're so crazy. They'll be like, "Oh, well, that means you know what I mean?" They get so triggered by it. But I think that's kind of the reality of the world that we're living in right now. I think that if it does come out, it will lead to greater disclosures later on. But I think even with those greater disclosures later on, what we're looking at, unfortunately, is one of the timeless foundations of power on planet Earth. meaning all you have to do is go back to the Bible and you can read everything you need to know about child sacrifice. Now this show will get recommended to even fewer people because I just said that word. You know what I mean? But it's like this has been going on Earth for millennia, for millennia. And we have this group of people within a very small subsection that think that the be all end all of that happens when the United States government releases some list of people, not realizing that it'll never come out because the majority in the United States government is literally on it. They're literally, so it's, anyway, I'm kind of looping too far into that, but it's kind of been a thing that I have wanted to voice. And it's, I'm not saying it's good. Well, Felicia gets it. Not everyone can handle the truth. And it's a very, very sad thing. And I think that's part of what, we as a society of people who are awakened are here to deconstruct and are here to heal and to take care of. But I don't think there was ever any agreement that said, and at some point the government's going to tell you the truth, which leads me to our final story of the day. A lot of you guys have already heard this. We're going to watch a video really quick. I think we're allowed to do this on YouTube, right? We're allowed to do this. A lot of you guys have seen this. It just came out today, right? It was on Joe Rogan and it was congressman, right? Isn't that what it is when you're a representative? I should know this. Congressman, right? Representative rather, Anna Luna tells Joe Rogan UFOs are not man-made. So, for those hardcore disclosure purists, isn't this a version of governmental disclosure? I really hope the audio works. We're going to watch this together. I'm going to turn it up, you guys, and I'm going to look at your comments. You're going to tell me if the audio works. It's very short. A lot of you guys have heard this, 38 seconds long. YouTube, please allow us to show this. We're just critiquing this video. Here we go.
So what I want to bring it back to evidence. You said that you've seen evidence. Like, what kind of evidence have you seen?
I have seen photos. I have seen.
What have you seen photos of?
So I was in a skiff, and I can't discuss all that was in a skiff, but what I can tell you is based on the photos that I've seen, I'm very confident that there's things out there that have not been created by mankind.
It seems crazy that people have access to information that shows that there's something outside of us that is more intelligent, at least more capable than we are, and they hide it from everybody else.
No, that's a very short one. There's a little bit more that she talks about there. I might show another one. If you guys want me to, I'll show another one. Let me know in the chat if you want me to show another one. But what do you guys think? So a lot of you guys have already seen this. Some of you haven't. They did a whole multi-hour interview where later on she talks about how, I think she mentioned it there's photos of craft and how, they move interdimensionally between time and space. And here's the thing. It's like, and maybe this is a question that I have for everyone here. Is this anything new? Really? Like, is it anything new? For real? For real. It's like when we really look at this, or at least for me already, and yes, I will show another video. It's like, okay, and I'm not saying that from a cynical perspective. I'm not saying that as like this, like it's not real, it's fake. You know what I mean? I'm not weighing in because I know it's real. I'm not trying to go there. It's just like, this is nothing new. How many times have we heard this one? You know what I mean? Wasn't Buzz Aldrin saying there was a obelisk on Mars in like 2010 or something? That's a whole other one that, just went right through the collective filter. Everyone just dropped that one. Although I know a lot of you guys are familiar with that statement, but I remember seeing that like a year or so ago, this little snippet of an interview where he's like, yeah, I think he called it a monolith. And there's a monolith on the moon of Mars. He talks about how it's out there and they just go, oh, okay. And it's like, I mean, that alone should have told you. But anyway, Felicia says it's collective blocking. As someone who is MK Ultra, literally that's right. So collective blocking in what sense? That they are blocking the perception of the masses of understanding the authenticity of it, or are we coming from a different perspective? Let me know. Erica says, what's hilarious is Neil deGrasse Tyson denies it. Didn't he come out as trans at one point? I'm not saying that as a joke. I swear to God, I'm not saying that as a joke. I remember there was this thing that was floating around on X where he had made either an article or a post or a video where he was talking about how he realized that and maybe this was fake clickbait bullshit, but it's like, not that that has anything to do with his credibility, but I think what it does have to do with, or what it does insinuate, is the level of influenceability that guy has. I mean, doesn't he go against anything that can possibly indicate, like the presence of life on some level? I mean, he's just kind of like the general naysayer of establishment ufology, right? And it's all through the filter of, I'm a physicist, right? Yeah, like what the hell does that even mean? Really? What does that mean? Anyway, sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing the comments. I might switch, you guys. I'm going to switch over to glasses. I'm going to switch over. Actually, I'm going to do it without glasses for a while. Miranda Anderson says, yes, we got disclosure, at least admittance of UFOs from the government. As I recall, we also did in 2016. It happened so many times, so many times. I guess I'm just one of those people that goes back to the idea that we as people, we as experiencers are disclosure. We are that movement. I'm not trying to do like one of those soapbox moments. I'm just saying that's the thing that we're going to discover later on in the human journey. Many of us already know it to be true. It's a process that will be sparked and formed and initiated by experiencers and people that will sort of, generate that 100th monkey effect. At a certain point, everybody will be knowing it. Everybody will be doing it. And the concept of some form of governmental disclosure, or them suddenly saying, okay, it's real, it's not going to matter at that point. Just like, how we were going on and on a second ago about the Epstein list. Just like if that dropped today, there's a huge amount of people in this world that'll be like, what? You know what I mean? They won't care. They won't even know. They'll be, oh, what's that? That Trump said don't matter. Okay, fuck it. You know what I mean? They'll just move on. That's probably how it's going to end up being. There's going to be some massive group sighting a ship of land, I don't know, maybe at that mall in Florida, or who knows, maybe out here. Maybe out here in Austin, Texas, or wherever. Maybe there will be multiple ones. I know I'm getting a bit idealistic here. And, it'll be a thing that will be broken by the people. I think I'm oversimplifying it and kind of spinning it through a childlike filter here. But a hopeful art says, is it that case that UFO info has to be dribbled out and repeated to the masses over and over, just so the normies can be sensitized to the idea? I think that is, yeah, that's a really, really big part of it. Which, we heard was going to happen, and we're being given it. And I guess really the reason why I choose to show that is because I believe that even though it's not necessarily the defining moment and, the be all end all moment where, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I think it was in 2010 or 12, I think, 2011, maybe 12. David Wilcock at the time went on Coast to Coast AM and told George Norrie, he was like, I've received from my top insider that Barack Obama has purchased airtime on every major network, and in 30 days time he's going to appear on camera with 2 human hybrids, one on each side, and he's going to, you know what I mean? He was absolutely convinced. This is documented. You can look it up, you guys. David Wilcock was absolutely convinced in 2011 that Barack Obama was going to show up and suddenly make ufology, like he's going to finally tell us the truth. You know what I mean? And it's like there's always some fantastical thing about it. So it's like, it's number one, it's nothing new, and number two, it's like, why do we need them to tell us? But number three, and let me throw a wrench into it. let me throw a wrench in there. What if, you guys, what if they really do the alien invasion, the fake alien invasion? What if they actually did it? Just pause for a second and ask yourself, what would actually happen? How would that go if they really did the fake alien invasion? What do you guys think? Would people believe it? Tell me in the comments, please, please. Tell me in the comments. All is one. What's going on? All is one says, "Hi guys, been off grid for a while. Saw a YouTube of James Rink, and I thought he looked very thin. Is he okay?" I think he's okay. Honestly, I think he has hyperthyroidism, although there might be a lot more going on there. I don't know. I'm just saying, feels like hyperthyroidism. Probably a lot of other stuff. I'm being very kind and very general. I like James Rink. I don't think he likes me, but I like him. Um, anyway, who knows? A lot of us get weird. Like there's a lot of shit that we go through, those of us, you guys will see me go through some wild stuff. I've had some health issues. Man, yeah, 2025 has been a hell of a year for that. I will say you can even see a little bit of it. You can see a little bit of the white spot. I do have a thing called vitiligo, which for those of you guys that don't know is where your skin turns white. It's that thing where you lose the melanin in your skin. And I've had it for years, and it's funny now that I'm not wearing my glasses on camera, you can see it kind of showing up. Eventually, I'll have a super white spot. Right, I swear to God, I'm not trying to make this weird, you guys. I will have a super white spot around my left eye, just because I can see it very, very lightly under the shading in my skin. But yeah, it's essentially an autoimmune disease where your body destroys melanin. The good news is it doesn't seem to cause any other damage to the human. It doesn't seem to lead to cancers. It doesn't, do this or that. It just, you get really weird white splotches. But it's funny. Somebody was commenting on James Rink, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not, we all certainly go through some weird shit. But anyway, some of us don't like. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of opinions out there. That's okay. You know what I mean? I hold space for that. You know what I mean? I hold space for that. There was a lot of controversy that kind of developed after the Full Disclosure Now conference, which we don't have to get super into it, but a lot of you guys have already heard about it. But I will say, as a person that was there was no indication of any drama, any negativity whatsoever. I would say honestly, from an experiential perspective, it was incredible. It was a great time. We deeply enjoyed it. It's always an honor to get to speak. It was the first standing ovation that I have received as a speaker. Not to say there was a million people there, but a few people really, really enjoyed it. It was a deep honor to get to talk about the work that I do there. And big thanks to Brian Sang for allowing me to be there, for Ida Farhat for putting it together, and everybody else. And I think it's important to say that publicly, because to me it's an honor to get to speak at conferences. And historically, love it or hate it, I have not been on the top of anyone's conference list. So I don't know if we have any other. I don't have anything else planned. That is it for the time being. You never know, things usually pop up, but yeah, no, it was an amazing experience. But I think maybe I'm just commenting upon the overall drama of the moment and the wildness. Oh yeah, somebody had asked about James Rink, and somebody else said, I don't like him. It's all right. That's cool. There's a lot. I have been made aware there's a lot of people that don't like me now either. If you've been hanging out in the Facebook scene the last week or so, we've been arguing quite a bit. So there's probably a few people out there. That'll say that about me as well. You know what I mean? You're always the villain in somebody's story. But it's your choice. Are you going to be the cool, like mysterious villain? Are you going to be the savage villain? You know what I mean? If you're going to end up being forced to be the villain in somebody's story, at least be the cool, mysterious villain. Or, and, depending on who you follow, some people will say this is true, but they say it's much better to be feared than loved. which is I'll be real, that's so cheesy. It's so much better to be feared than loved, you know what I mean? As if, but yeah, I feel you. Yeah, Aurora Diamond Heart knows it. I'll just say this. I will say this publicly because there's nothing to stop any of the people that I was arguing with on Facebook to roll in here. I do not suffer fools in the online realm. Like, I am not a person that will play nice and do the whole love and light thing with you. I'm gonna be real. That's also a personality defect, we could say. We could say it's also a personality defect because I'm gonna be real. Like, this is the reality of it. I try to be truly authentic in word and action, and I say that really with absolute intention. However, I think that when you choose to be authentic in word and action, that leaves the door open for moments in which people in this world come to you with literal bullshit, with fake things, with negativity, and you're expected to just, oh, that's okay, and play this nice thing. You know what I mean? When people come at me in a certain way, it's like I have one of the best mirror functions ever. I will give it right back. It's like an immediate exchange. And what I've noticed is over the years of interacting with people in certain forums, especially on, I would say Facebook is the only place I really ever argue with people. But for those that have been there, it's like I will not hesitate to tell you to fuck off. And I'm just being real. I'm just being real. I think that it is far more appropriate to be real over being nice. However, not in every situation, and it depends on what's going on. It depends at the matter at hand. I'm not saying to walk into every situation and just go fuck this, fuck that. No, because some people will take it to that extreme. I'm saying when the time comes, do not be afraid to allow yourself to experience and express fire and anger and dissatisfaction with the world around you. I think one of the great myths that has been placed on us in this overall fake, false nicety of the social media realm is that we have to maintain some bullshit of like decorum and social posturing, when the reality is we do not. And it's not a democracy, and there's a lot of people that will try to project things upon one another, and a lot of really shitty, toxic social media divisiveness that I think takes place, just like it always has been. And I guess I'm just one of those people who's willing to go, oh hell no, you know what I mean? It's like, we're not going to play that game, which I guess I've been doing a lot of. I took like 2 months off of Facebook. A lot of you guys don't know this because I'm not one of those people that's like, okay guys, I'm leaving. Just want to let everyone know, for those of you that follow me, just want to let you know I'm probably going to check out for, you know what I mean? Everyone has to do this. I'm announcing that I'm going out the door. I spent literally the last 2 months really not on Facebook at all. And you know what I mean? No, we don't have to announce it and make a, like a virtue, a virtue signal out of it. But I will say the less time I spend on there, the better. Cause like inevitably someone will say something and I'll be like, oh God, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I do take the bait. I have been known to take the bait. It'll happen. It'll happen. I'll take the bait. Anyway. Thanks, you guys. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about that. Erica says, and let people know you see through their BS. It's true, though. I honestly, maybe I do that too much. You know what I mean? We all have a line that we cross. I think maybe I do. Maybe I do. I don't know. Felicia says, James has cyborg energy to me. It rubs me raw. Honestly, that would be cool if he was a cyborg. I would love it. I would love it if James Rink was a cyborg. And I say that in a loving way. That would be awesome. At least we would have one person in the community with some real like proof and authenticity. Be like, look at him. He's a cyborg. You know what I mean? There's like a spark coming out. It's like, he's like glitching out. Like, look, see, there it is. You know what I mean? That would be quite an event. Or what if something happened? Like what if there was a freak accident? For those of you guys that hang out with me at conferences, Aurora Diamond Heart and Erica have definitely hung out. What if we had one of those events where like somehow we were hanging out at one of these conferences and there was this crazy accident? And I'm not trying to make it gruesome, but let's just say, all right, let's just say a horrible thing happens, and maybe here, I'll make it about me, and maybe it was me, and let's say I got impaled. This is so dumb. I got impaled or stabbed. There was a massive riot, and Matthew Mornian got stabbed. And then when I started bleeding, everybody realized that it was just like those dudes in the Alien movie, right? Remember like that guy Bishop from Alien, where it's just like white liquid, you know what I mean? That like, oh my God, he's gonna die. And then you realize it's like, holy shit, he was a clone the whole time. But see, that's not to say that clones have white fluid, but what were they called in the Alien movie? Does anyone know what were they called? Were they just called androids in the Alien movie? Because I know there's a new show out about it now, right? Like Alien Earth or something. I don't know what it's called. Somebody out there will know. I feel like Aurora Diamond Heart will know about that show. But there's a new Alien show out, right? And so I haven't seen it. I'm like going by the old one. But what if it turned out like it's not replicant, right? That's Blade Runner, but there's a name for it in the Alien movies. There's a name for it. I don't know what it was. Is it just androids? Damn. All right. Turns out I'm an android. And the only way we found out was through a catastrophic event that took place at a disclosure conference. Anyway, I'm making it dumb. But yeah, so be on lookout, everybody. We have governmental disclosure live on the Joe Rogan podcast from Representative Anna Paulina Luna. There's some more videos that you guys can watch about it, but we've been here for long enough, and I feel like it's time to do some readings. I could probably talk at you forever, which I might do, but just for the sake of time, for the sake of engagement. Oh wow, now I can see the screen so much more clear. Let's switch over and do some readings. All as one says my phone is a cyborg. You know what though? They are though, really, like when you think about it. I think we're only about a year away from having an individual AI inside your phone. I mean, a lot of people will be like, well, yeah, I already have Grok and Chat GPT on my phone. Your phone will come with the AI operating system. It'll be a whole new version of Siri. It's going to be on a whole other level. It might not even be Siri. It'll be something else. But get ready for that one. My God, the AI is blowing up. Is it not, you guys? Is it a beautiful thing? Is it a frightening omen for what may become? Brian's got it totally right. Literal Black Mirror. There it is. And I'll admit I've been staring at it all day too. So there we go. Hopeful Art got it. What if you found out you were a synthetic? That's kind of what I was meaning by like the whole alien thing. You know how it's like, he always gets like dismembered in the Alien movie, right? Like, right, somebody gets dismembered in every one, and it's like the android dude and his arm gets ripped off, and instead of blood, it's like non-fat milk, right? It's like, what if we're at a disclosure conference and my arm gets ripped off, and they're like, and you know what it was? It's fucking almond milk. Somebody in the background will be like, oh my God, at least he was vegan. See, I knew it. They want us to stop eating meat. You know what I mean? They'll make it they'll make it about something else, but maybe it was. It'll be almond milk. Aurora Diamond Heart's like, why is it is, right? It's always white. How come it can't be like motor oil? What if it's motor oil? No, see, that would be too earthbound, right? It wouldn't work. I mean, we could do AI black goo, right? We could do AI black goo, but a part of me thinks if the entire body was filled with AI black goo and they used that in the horror movie as that scene of death, it would eventually take away the shock factor of AI black goo. You know what I mean? It's almost like when it shows up in sort of movies and, collective media, it's always in this smaller form, right? Or it's just, you know what I mean? It's being injected, or it's inside a petri dish, or there's somebody in a movie drinking it in a cup, or, you know what I mean? It's not like the whole system is flooded with it. It's like you see it swimming through someone's eyes, and like in the X-Files for for that split second, or I don't know. Anyway, let's do some readings. We're hearing about the lactose intolerance of our chat, which is unfortunate. Honestly, Selena, I was lactose intolerant for a while, for real. I know this will sound like a joke because I've been joking about everything tonight, but I'm being real. I was lactose intolerant for like a few years back in the early 2000s. Any kind of dairy that came into my body, I just had horrible symptoms from it all the time. And for some reason, I forced myself to start eating like yogurt at the time. I don't remember how or why, but I did like a mega dose of yogurt, and for some reason, like it literally ended lactose intolerance. Come to find out, at that stage of my life, I knew nothing about probiotic balance of the gut. And I think for me, there was something that it gave to me. I don't remember why. I think I got obsessed all of a sudden with like yogurt with berries or something, and I was willing to go through the diarrhea factor. So I ate it for like a week straight. And for some reason within that process, I never got sick from dairy again after that. Yeah, seriously, I know that's a dumb story, but that was literally my experience. I think I had to restore some sort of like probiotic gut biome balance, and it allowed me to once again start taking in dairy. I've known people that have had that with certain meat, like chicken, where like she just could not eat chicken, and it was like there's a certain enzyme that needed to be reintroduced into the stomach biome, and like once you get it, like once you get it, it's like, you sort of refill with it, and it's like, oh, now I can handle that, because now this person eats chicken all the time. But there was a period where like they could not, they just like couldn't, every single time. Anyway, I think there's a lot more to like food intolerance. Yeah. And there we go. Sandy Songjoy said it. Could intolerances also be energetic, not physically, simply physical? Absolutely. Absolutely. Selena said, it only starts since I was 42. Oh, man, I hate to say it. The 40s is the decade of your check engine light. Seriously, no, for real. That's the decade where your check engine light comes on for the first time. Whatever, like the degenerative health factors that could potentially make a big impact later on in your life will almost absolutely be given to you in your 40s. You'll feel a nip of it, not like you get it all the way. You'll have an event or an experience or an illness. And yeah, that's the decade of the check engine light, man. Ask me how I know, and other people. Aurora Diamondheart knows. It's the first time for a lot of us where suddenly things stop working right, and you end up going to the doctor, and you're like, "Oh, okay." Like now I have to change. Some people get it sooner, some people get it later. I feel like, just from what I've observed and like what I see, that's the decade where we get the first taste of it. It doesn't mean that we respond to it right then. It doesn't mean we have to respond to it right then. Some people will. Some people will. It's terrifying, forces you to face death. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's too late now to go into further story time because we're going to do readings. But I'll talk a bit more about that in the next live we do, whether it be next week or 3 months from now, because I do want to acknowledge, I think it's been almost 3 months since we did one of these. But for the remaining people who are here, put your name in the chat if you'd like a reading. We're going to pull some cards here. It's part of the plan. That was kind of the original plan earlier. I was like, I'm just going to do a live stream of readings. But then we ended up having really, really fun story time. For those of you guys that came in later, our live stream began today with an amazing event. A guy, one of our neighbors here, had an incredible like breakdown due to overdosing on mushrooms. If you came in later, if you didn't hear the story, it was amazing. It was sad. It was catastrophic, but we got to have it land literally on our doorstep. And there was this screaming guy, like, just, oh man, absolutely losing his mind, having one of those public bad trips. We've already heard about it, but for those who don't know, you can rewind and hear the story later. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is because the original plan was always we were going to do readings in and out and talk about stuff along the way. But well, let's pull some cards. For those of you guys that are here, thank you for hanging out with us this long. You can be guaranteed to get a reading. For those of you guys that see this broadcast, you can be guaranteed to receive a reading this Saturday, the 16th. You can join us over at Patreon at the Blue Flame Collective. And the first person I see mentioning readings is All Is One. So we're going to pull a card for you. And with that, All Is One, we're going to formally change the vibe. Because we've been doing a lot of talking, a lot of theorizing, a lot of joking. Let's just kind of aim it inward for those of you guys that are still here. And we have a small crew, so this will be easy. Just take a slow breath. We won't count it down. Just take a deep, slow breath in. Fill your body with breath and energy. Just hold it for a moment and release it. Thank you. As we open the door for spirit and all those of you that guide us in the energy of truth, in the energy of healing and clarity and understanding and finding our direction, our path in this human world. And so we're going to start out with All Is One. For the character on the internet known as All Is One, that's how I'm going to classify you today. The character on the internet. I don't know why. That was the tagline we gave. For the character known as All Is One, we're just asking what needs to be heard, what needs to be seen. What energy do you have for All Is One? Here we go, guys. First card of the day. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Oh, that's an unexpected first visitor. All Is One. This is the 6 of Cups. I'm going to be real. It's hard to make a bad time out of the 6 of Cups, although I'm sure you could do it if you really wanted to. When a 6 of Cups comes into your life, you're being given an opportunity right now, or you might already be in the process of doing so. You might be wondering what you're asked to do in terms of healing or acknowledgement in your life, or maybe this is a thing that you're engaging in your own way. But the 6 of Cups, and every 6 in general, is usually a benevolent number. For those who don't know tarot and you're just getting into this, all the 6s come with them, I think, a lot more good than bad. You know, depending on how you want to read tarot, you know, sometimes you will get upside down cards, which is meaningless on this channel, because the good and bad are available in any given moment. But when a 6 of Cups shows up in your life, All Is One, you're being asked, you're being given an opportunity, you're being recommended, you're being congratulated for your ability, your desire, and your dedication to connecting with the inner child, to connecting maybe with physical children. Maybe you've done a lot of nurturing of your own inner child over the past few months. Maybe, and you know, this is not always what 6 of Cups is about, but sometimes it's also about dealing with healing and inner child trauma, early childhood trauma. I got to be real. Historically, 6 of Cups is not the traumatized, broken version of our inner child. It's usually the version of our inner child that wants to play, that wants to heal, that wants to feel good, that wants to be seen, that wants to be acknowledged. And within that comes a lot of opportunity for healing. It comes with a lot of opportunity for healing. But I'll be real, when the 6 of Cups is out, you know what I mean? It's like Spirit will offer you things, and sometimes it'll offer it to you in the form of difficulty, but it's always going to be something that will help you grow. And so I think 6 of Cups, you guys, for most people, is an opportunity and a recommendation to engage with your inner child. Maybe you haven't been feeling any of those themes lately, and you've been like, yeah, I don't know, I got a whole other thing going on. That's cool, though. Anyway, let's just say you're one of those people and this doesn't really factor into your day-to-day life right now. If you're wondering, okay, well, what else could it mean? It means that Spirit is asking you to behave like a child. I'm just being real. That's literally it. It's like play like a child, engage as a child, bring childhood wonder back into your life. One of the ways in which you'll heal yourself on a day-to-day basis is by taking the offers that spirit gives you to engage with that version of yourself as a child. Some people get this at a stage of their life. Seriously, this is a thing that can happen for people, you guys. Maybe not you all as one, but maybe other people. You can get this at a stage of your life where themes and stuff you were interested in as a kid will come back. Sometimes cartoons, movies, subjects, books, toys, stories, things that you wanted to or were a part of as a kid will show up in your life as an adult later on. And one of the reasons for it, when it shows up, and let's just say you happen to be in a YouTube chat room and somebody pulls a 6 of cups, and let's just say that's been a theme for you. That's literally your guides and spirit giving you an opportunity to heal that aspect of your inner child. And the way that you do it is by engaging with it. It's not an energy of confrontation. It's not one of those like, hey, we need to talk. It's not that. It's that I'm allowing myself to be silly, to play, to be a child, to engage in childlike wonder, to take the offer, like the gift of enjoyment and growth that comes with it. And so anyway, I'm going too far. But this is a good omen for you all as one. My prayer is that tomorrow or maybe now or the day after that, you're going to have one of those days where you just let yourself goof off and be silly, maybe at work and as much as you can if you go to work, just let yourself goof off, let yourself be silly, act childish, giggle about things, find something to giggle about. I know for some people that's going to sound kind of cheesy, but I'm being very authentic. That's what the 6 of Cups authorizes in your life. And so, anyway, I hope that helps. I hope that helps in some form or another. Let's scroll up. We're going to do a couple more readings, you guys. Who else is there? We had All Is One. Here we go. Cosmic Mama, what's going on? All right, Erica, we're going to pull a card for you. If you're quick on the chat, you guys, you can throw a comment down there. Or, I mean, a question, sorry, in the comment stream. If you want to ask a question, we'll do a few readings and then we will roll out of here. But if you got a question, put it down below. We have a low user turnout tonight because I haven't done a live in so long, and because YouTube won't. The YouTube has us locked in a weird algorithmic cap. So the fact that there's a low turnout is good because that means that your chance of getting a reading right now is better than ever before. Anyway, I've been using that time to shuffle cards. Okay, this is for Erica, Cosmic Mama. I'm going to scroll down and see if you had a question. What do I need to hear? Okay, cool. Boom. As we pause in this moment of reverence, we honor those of you connected with Erica in this now moment. We're just asking what needs to be seen, what needs to be acknowledged. The energy of truth and healing and clarity and empowerment. What does she need to know? Thank you. Here we go. Boom. Well. Woman of the Stars. This is one of my favorite characters in the world of tarot. Erica, you have received the Page of Wands. There's a lot of data points that come up with a Page of Wands that not that many people know about. And some of these might apply to you, some of them might not. The first thing I'll say about the Page of Wands is not the thing that I expected to open with, but it's being given to me. It's a thing that some people in our tarot class have already heard this spiel. The pages come in a different package than everyone else. And I have a feeling in some way or another, if you're holding page energy in your life, whether this is Erica or anyone else, you've been aware, maybe painfully aware, that you've been in a different package. You know what I mean? People will look at a Page of Wands and go, really? You? Okay. You know what I mean? We get misjudged. We don't get seen. We get, unacknowledged. Sometimes people see the Page of Wands come in the room and they're like, oh, you? Ugh. You know what I mean? Because they just come in a different package. They don't look like everyone else. Sometimes they're bigger, they're smaller, they're weirder. They're quieter, they're louder, you know what I mean? They just come in a different package. All the pages have this trait. They come in a different package, but that's okay because they come with incredible abilities and traits that I think are universal in some form to anyone that receives it. And I think the Page of Wands comes into your life, Erica and everyone else, when you're being given a new stage of your assignment, a new path, a new ability. It's like the universe will come into your life and they'll say, did you know you can do this? Did you know you can have this? Did you know that you're available and authorized to engage in this? And they hand this to you. And in this image here, it's like a wand. You know what I mean? It's this giant wand because that's the Page of Wands. And maybe you discovered it. Maybe you're going to have a chance encounter in the next few months and you're going to stumble into something and go, oh my God, I can do this. This is me. I can handle it. Yeah, I got it. I got it. I got it. And that's what happens with Page of Wands because they think that they're going to take on something. A new path is given to them, a new ability, a new responsibility, a new something in this world. The path of fire, its desire, its activity, its physical engagement. And the Page of Wands takes that thing and they're like, I can do it. And sometimes they can't. And it's not that you can't do it. It's that they will have to make themselves ready for something. They have to make themselves more prepared. They have to better themselves. They have to improve their skills, which it's not to say that you don't have them already. And it's not even referring to any particular area in your life. The Page of Wands is always beginning a new path in some way. All pages are doing that. And based on what page you receive, it tells you where the new beginning is happening. And so for you, it's in the physical realm. It's in the path of, if you want to call it, and this is a thing that I know you do, so I'll apply it to this: travel, physical activity, things that we physically do in the physical realm. And when the Page of Wands is out, you're going to be in a new stage of that, but you're being asked to improve your skills in whatever you're doing. And at the same time, you are also being asked to acknowledge your legitimacy. It's weird. It's like on one hand, the page says, well, you need to get better at those things that you're bringing into your life. You want it, we're handing it to you. You have better improve your ability to wield it. Otherwise, it's going to be too heavy for you. And then they'll say, and then at the same time, you must understand that you are absolutely legitimate. You are fully ready. Yes, you're in a different package than a lot of other people, but you are going to be one of the people that's left over when all is said and done and no one's left. You know what I mean? And everyone else is gone. They didn't make it to the end of the movie. The Page of Wands is always there. We could say Page of Wands, because you guys, in the world of multidimensional tarot, a lot of these characters have like this really big trait. Well, not all of them, but some of the characters in the world of tarot, it's like they're the most at this or they're the best at that. Or some of them are the worst. They're like, oh man, he's the worst at that. He won't make that. Guess where the Page of Wands fits in, you guys? Page of Wands is the ultimate survivor. They will be sometimes the only survivor, but they survive. They always make it to the end of the movie. And so in a way, that's good. It's good for longevity. It's good for the fact that you're going to be able to stand the test of time. Page of Wands usually can. The problem is getting noticed in the process, getting acknowledged by the world while you're standing the test of time. You could stand the test of time as a Page of Wands and be completely misjudged the entire time. And they'll go, oh, not you, sweetie. We're not going to pick you yet. You know what I mean? And that sucks. That's a hard reality for Page of Wands because that'll happen. It also happens to Knight of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles will have that problem too. They should be chosen. They've got all the talent. They've got everything they need, but they won't be. Oftentimes because other people see them and they're like, oh, don't choose her. Oh my God, she'll end up making us look bad. You know what I mean? Like if we include that one, they're going to do better than everybody here. And that's kind of a thing that'll happen. Happens to Knight of Pentacles more, but that'll happen to Page of Wands. The good news is Page of Wands will still be around at the end of the movie, and they end up, in some cases, they end up being one of the biggest heroes. It's a very, very particular type of energy. When you really lean into the personality archetypes in the world of tarot, there's so much there. Page of Wands is awesome. Anyway, I'm kind of going on and on with you, Erica. Sorry. But anyway, thanks, you guys. We're going to do a few more. We'll do 3 more readings for the time being. If you're one of the 23 people that is still here watching this live right now, let me know in the chat and maybe we'll pull a card for you. I'm going to scan through and see if there's anyone else that mentions readings. Boom. Felicia did. She mentioned it. Thank you. Felicia, why are you yelling? I'm just kidding. That's the all caps. Okay. Felicia Asherbranner says, Matthew, reading please for my horse King. Left hind hoof. Okay, we can feel into his energy. And so once again, we'll just refocus gently for those of you guiding Felicia in this now moment. We just ask for any information or guidance that can be offered about just physical issues with the foot of her horse King. Back left hind hoof. Well, I would say the most palpable sensation that comes through, and I might be wrong about this because I'm not a horse person, Felicia. It feels as though he is willing to suffer the discomfort of this wound with knowledge that it's like a repetitive motion thing and something keeps getting worn away or something keeps getting, it happens again and again and again and again. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's brand new. Maybe it hasn't been repeating, but it looks like it seems as though it's like part of it is he's willing to kind of suffer that and to just, go through it. And it's not like it's fun, but it's like there's amount of acceptance there. And so, depending on what you're doing for him or what you're going to do, or, maybe there's some medical stuff or somebody taking a look at him, it looks like the willingness is going to need to come from him knowing that, and maybe this will be an interface that you'll have with him, knowing that it's okay to be a little weak for a while, knowing that it's okay to, show weakness and to allow this part of his hoof to regenerate, because it feels totally regenerable. But it's like repetitive motion over and over again. Something gets worn and then it starts hurting. And I might be totally off, so you're going to know. But it looks like there's some emotional factors. It looks like that there's a lot of just a very strong personality. He doesn't want to think that he's letting anyone down. He doesn't want to feel like, that I guess he perceives that sort of weakness and might have some feelings about it, which I can understand. It feels like a proud animal. And maybe I'm totally off track on this, but I think maybe there's a talk that you'll have with him or some sharing of energy. It feels as though this is something that will be lifted, something that will be healed. I'll just pull a card on it. I'll just pull a card because I don't, a lot of you guys know I don't do a lot of animal readings, but let's see. Here we go. For those of you assisting, what can be said about King's hoof? What's going on? We have some ideas. About personality and just him as an animal. And we're just asking, can anything else be seen? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Oh, what? It's a Queen of Cups. Oh, well, that's a complex answer. How do we apply a Queen of Cups toward an illness or injury that an animal would be having? Well, I would say number one, it's a confirmation that there's an emotional factor, and that what I'm about to say may or may not fit in with the context of your current experience, but I'll say it anyway. The Queen of Cups tends to hold back. You know what I mean? She knows a lot. She has incredible knowledge, incredible intuition. There's to kind of, less humanize her, there's an incredibly complex being with incredible intuitive capability. I imagine on some level your horse is a healer. The Queen of Cups will just need to come to terms with certain things. And I don't know that that really answers or tells anything about the condition of what's going on with your horse. Maybe this is more toward you. Queen of Cups will need to look at her own reasoning, her own motivations. She'll need to look at what's in her cup. But let's just say if you're looking for a causative factor, if something's difficult, generalized difficulty, I'll say, and the Queen of Cups rolls in the room, the first things we're going to look at are emotional factors, feelings, expectations. I would say if you want to get kind of super weird about it, we could say there's something that you will observe in his behavior by standing back and watching when they don't know you're looking at them. Not maybe that won't make sense within the context of your horse experience, but Queen of Cups would do that. Queen of Cups is a one who will just kind of sit in the back and like, and you might not even know they're there. They're just back there, like, just watching, you know, sitting there maybe with a cup, just like, you don't know what they're thinking. That's Queen of Cups. I don't know if that necessarily answers anything for you, Felicia. I want to apologize in advance. That might have been an empty, a fruitless road to go down. But I pray that it brings a little something into your world. We're going to do a couple more. Let's grab somebody else. Oh, it's Lois. What's up, Lois? I see you. If no one else steps forward, I will ask for a reading, gathering information these next few days on how to proceed with work. Totally. What's going on, Lois? Good to see you. We'll pull a card for. Oops. What's going on? It's Lois in the realm of work. Let's see. It's fun because it's past midnight on the East Coast. I'm in Central Time now, you guys. It's awkward. Everything's in the Central Time zone for me. So it's only 11 something. But I do want to acknowledge it's 12:39 on the East Coast. Thank you to those of you guys that are hanging out. Everybody on the West Coast is like, whatever. But yeah, I guess it just gets later and later, right? It just gets later and later. Anyway, let's pause and refocus. For those of you assisting Lois, we're just looking for anything that can be seen or heard regarding just gathering information on how to proceed with her work in whatever form that she identifies or defines that word, what needs to be known, what information can you grant her? Here we go. What? Oh, okay. Wow. Complex answer. Can of worms. Oh, Lord. Okay, Lois, you have received the Lovers. And so I will start out by saying, well, it kind of depends on what it is you're working at right now or trying to do. It may be time to see eye to eye, to take new steps in being sure to see eye to eye with those that you are encountering, to accept what is. But if you were looking for a strategy, yes, you're going to be very accepting of every flaw, every moment, every beautiful thing. You'll notice the good, you'll notice the bad. But be very careful to play into the roles of gender. Be very careful to play into your ability and your magnetism, the feminine essence is going to be very important for the Lovers, whether you're a feminine being or a masculine being. The ways the Lovers heals itself is by playing the entirety of its role as the divine masculine, as the divine feminine. We look towards seeing eye to eye with others and generate new agreements within our relationships. We allow for this full spectrum of emotions. And really, it's more about creating connection than it is necessarily falling in love. If you really, really, really wanted to play it, and I know, Lois, you and I have had some conversation about what I'm about to say, but seriously, though, you guys, only Lois will know what I mean. Because this comes from the law of one. So Lois will be like, oh, law of one. Or you might be like, oh, law of one. But I'll just say it from the law of one. They state, what's one of the most important lessons is to remember in third density, as what they call it, the third density wander, the human form. And there's that one line that they always say, remember, the moment contains love. The moment contains love. For some people, that becomes just like a cheesy, kind of like a platitude. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, moment contains love. Oh, isn't that cute? Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? And then I think for other people, it becomes a thing that becomes the primary intention behind whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And when I look into the essence of what they were talking about in the law of one, is that being one of the things that spirit says, well, that's what you're meant to come here. One of the things you're meant to come here and focus on. And that is that the moment contains love, striving for the moments of connection, of whatever that unity and togetherness can be. And I know that might be so like vanilla and basic. That might, for some people, it like it would be. For others, depending on the situation and what they're trying to accomplish within the scope of their work, it can also change, sort of the focus of what we're doing. And so anyway, I would just take from that whatever you can. From another perspective, I would say outside of the realm of tarot, just because you and I have spoken on this in the past, Lois, it does look like you're being asked to kind of assert yourself in a little bit of a different way and sort of present something verbally within your conversation or your interfacing or engagement with whoever you're working with. It does feel like you're being called to be a little bit more assertive or direct within something. And so I'll just say that as an aside to your tarot card, as an aside to the Lovers. It's like someone saying, it's almost like you'll have a little bit of a fist, not an angry fist, mind you, not a pounding fist, just one of those moments where you're like, and whatever it is that you're accomplishing, whatever it is you're going for. So whatever that means to you, you'll probably be like, what? But I think a part of you will know. It might be a victory moment where you're like, yes. You know what I mean? It could be that. It could be something else, but I hope it helps. Thanks for hanging out so late into the night. Felicia says, that was beautiful. Thank you. And so on to the point of what my intuition's been telling me. Been working hard to heal him. Stone bruise. I don't know what a stone bruise is, but I'm glad that makes sense to you in some form. That's just a feeling that comes through to him. But then again, I say this as a person, guys. I have very, very, very little horse experience in this life, and not for any bad reason. I was just raised in Southern California. Well, there's lots of horses there, but it wasn't the environment that I was in. I've always been curious about them. I've always been, I've always enjoyed horses. I just didn't I never had time with them. You know what I mean? A lot of you guys have heard me say that before. That's cool. Anyway, thanks, you guys. We're going to do one more. If there's another person here hanging out, our viewership is rapidly dwindling, ladies and gentlemen. The later it gets, the more and more time goes on. We're in a never-ending battle for YouTube relevance. And the only thing we have left is a few intuitive readings. And so we're going to do one more reading for those of you guys out there. Somebody else, let me know. Put it in the chat. In the meantime, for those of you that will find this after our broadcast time, if you want to get a guaranteed reading, we're going to be gathering with a whole group of people this Saturday, August 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern over in Patreon at the Blue Flame Collective. It took me 2.5 hours to start drilling on myself, which is a good sign. It's just a good sign. It used to only happen after like 30 minutes or so. So we're doing pretty well with it. But let me know if anyone else wants a reading before we casually disappear back into the astral realm once again. We'll give it a moment before we get out of here. But anyway, for those of you guys that are left over, you can be guaranteed to get a reading. You can find us over at patreon.com/Blue Flame Collective, where it is only $10. The fun part about it is it's guaranteed you're going to get a reading. We're going to do a little bit of an energetic opener on Saturday. We usually do just a little bit of energy work, a little bit of toning. We're going to do something just a little bit more this coming week. We're just going to do a little bit more of an energetic opener. So please do join us if you feel guided toward it. I don't see anybody else down there. Nobody else wants reading. We made it. Good job, everybody. So anyway, we're going to call it there, but do join us this Saturday. And who knows, maybe we'll come back. We might be back in another 2.5 months. We might be back sooner. There's a good chance. There's a very, very good chance it could happen. it's kind of more when spirit will move me. But in the meantime, you can always book a reading with myself or Nora over at rememberyourmission.com. If you'd like to join us this Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, you can do so right there. Thank you, Aurora Diamond Heart. And once again, yeah, thanks for hanging out, White Swan. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on, White Swan? Good to see you. It's been a fun one for me. Next time we show up here, I'll probably have cut my hair really, really awkwardly, and I'll have shaved, so I'll look like a totally different person. You guys will see many different versions of me. Over the years, you will see many different versions. And so anyway, it'll be a whole different version next time, but hopefully we'll see a number of you guys on Saturday. In the meantime, you can hit that like button before you roll out of here. Every little bit helps us. And yeah, live from one of the weirdest timelines in one of the weirdest stages of 2025. It's now August somehow. That was so fast, right, you guys? It was so fast. Here we are. The year is more than halfway over. What more remains? I don't know. We'll find out together, but I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you, I don't know, on another timeline in another version of reality. Who knows? Boom.